right, y'all. Welcome to the Weekend Chat. I am your host, Spencer Smith, and today we are kicking things off with a banger. I got to sit down with the one and only Josh Benson, Christian comedian, content creator, and a guy that's been making people laugh long before the internet even knew his name. We talk about his journey from life before social media to blowing up online and what it's actually like to be balancing his faith, family, comedy, and we talk about some fantasy football. It's real, it's hilarious, and it really sets the tone of what the Weekend Chat is really all about. Stories, sports, and a whole lot of heart. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. And without further ado, here's my interview with Josh Benson. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Spencer Smith with Daily Dynasty Show, and I am joined today by none other than Josh Benson. What is up, man? How you doing?
What is up, brother? Pumped to be on the pod. This is my first fantasy football podcast, which I feel like this is the best thing I have in my tool belt.
Right.
Being a great fantasy manager, the stats speak for themselves.
Hmm.
As far as my finishes and redraft and dynasty. So I'm pumped to be here, man. I'm ready
Yep.
to impart some of my knowledge for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was the main reason why I reached out to you. Not
Of
comedy, not all
course,
these other things. It was your fantasy football knowledge. And we're going to get to that.
understandably.
But Josh, obviously, one of the first things I want to kind of just dive right into here is the way I found you obviously is comedy. Like that's what you
Mhm.
came across my feed on comedy, and I kind of just want to jump right in, first thing, what led you to comedy? Like how did you get there, and were you always funny as a kid, or how did that start for you?
Man, that's a good question. I was always creative as a kid. Um, taking whatever I had, like if it was a drum set, if it was a karaoke machine, into like the living room and making my parents like listen to me, perform something audacious, something dumb. So was humor always the focus? No, it was probably, I think, what you would call being an attention whore was kind of the big thing there.
Yeah.
Um, but as I got older, and I'm sure you know this too, dude, it's like you get more of a perspective around things, and that's really when you can start to be funny, right?
Right.
Like there aren't a ton of high school kids or young college kids that are funny. It's kind of as you get older and you see the world and know what it is. So was it always humor? No, but it kind of hit a point where, specifically in the realm of Christianity, because I'm a Protestant. So sorry to any of the Catholics listening. Hope that doesn't offend you. You know, it kind of became my that became my shtick there of like humor, of like really realizing, what I believe and kind of all the silly things that Christians do. And so
Mm.
it became humor very quickly, but it hasn't always been. No.
So what led you, as far as, let's say the attention whore and Christian
Exactly.
comedy, what would be some of your, whether it is Christian comedics comedy, who would be some of
Mhm.
your comedic inspirations as you maybe were younger, but also as you got older?
Well, dude, so my first, I feel like like stand-up comedian that I loved, inspiration, was not a Christian. I don't know if he still is. It's Cat Williams.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you've ever heard
Yeah.
of Cat Williams,
Oh
but
yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
like being in middle school and high school, like sitting at the lunch table,
Hmm.
and like dudes are just pulling up Cat Williams, classic stuff. So that was like one of the first times I was introduced to stand up as like holy cow, like what a craft, you know?
Mm.
And so I feel like everything that I try to make is, maybe I can't say all the things that Cat Williams says. It's
Right.
like I want to put it on the Cat Williams level. But
Mm.
obviously there's guys like John Christ and Trey Kennedy and Shama, Jaron Myers, who are like doing kind of Christian stand-up comedy now, who, I mean, they're guys that are killing it too,
Mm.
and I definitely look to them as like, wow, that's kind of a level that I want to get to,
Mm.
at some point.
So would you say that because I kind of feel like it is a little bit interesting, like with comedy
Mhm.
and comedic acts. Would you say that when you're writing your stuff, would you say like you immediately are like, oh yeah, that's funny, I'm putting that in there, or do you have to like test it out with somebody else? Like how is it for you? Are you
Yeah,
always having to feel like you're laughing at your own stuff first, or like do you need to test it out with other people first? How does that work for you?
dude, it's kind of funny you say that because like I think I was talking to a guy the other day about this, and he's a creator too. It's like you be a content creator long enough, you just kind of hate yourself because you just watch yourself. Like when you're
Yeah.
editing your videos, you like watch yourself and you listen to yourself all day. So there kind of comes a point where there's a few exceptions when I have like a joke that I'm like, oh, this is killer.
Mm.
But there comes a point where it's just like golly, I'm just like so sick of myself, and I'm sick of like, is this even funny? So of course I'll like run it by my wife, who's hilarious. She has like a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I've got like a couple of friends who they do like the same realm, or they're even on the other side of the camera. They like to film, and they usually those are kind of the funniest guys I found,
Mm.
is the guys that actually do the the filming and editing
Mm.
for whatever reason. So I do have a good sounding board, right? But there's a few times when I'll kind of have like a little like a light bulb moments where it's like, oh, I don't have to test this with anybody. Like I
Okay.
know this is funny, but I've got a good squad, man.
So why Christian comedy? Like as far as, the pigeonhole of, there's comedy, but then also you're going to
Hmm.
go a little bit deeper into the Christian comedy. Is it you were, let me ask it like, were you into comedy before you became a Christian, or did you always grow up a Christian and therefore when you, got into comedy, it
Mm.
was okay, but I'm going to do it towards Christian comedy?
That's a good question. I mean, I grew up Christian, right?
Okay.
And this is going to be a longer story, but I promise I'll land the plane here. Firstly, I'll say to be even remotely comedic, you have to be confident, right? You have
Okay.
to be, confident in your ability to be the class clown. In that wasn't always me. Like there's a long backstory to it, but when I started getting, I would say, serious about my faith, I was kind of at a point in my life where I was like a neutered little puppy, just kind of tail between the legs, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I worked this Christian camp, this summer camp one year when I'm like, what, 2021, summer between college. Uh, and in that time, for a multitude of reasons, I kind of gained a lot of confidence back. And one thing that I found when I was confident, not when I would, say what was on my mind instead of trying to filter everything and be like, wait, what's the most generic thing I can say to be likable? Like
Right.
just an AI, PC type of guy. When I would say things that I thought, kind of in an unfiltered basis, people thought it was funny.
Mm.
So all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, whenever I'm confident and I can step out and say things in a public sphere, like it's funny. So the Christianity came first because I've been a Christian like my whole life, but I would say the comedy came, and then when you look at comedy, it's kind of like, well, I have to be funny about what I know best.
Mm.
It always kills me when people online are like, you make fun of Christians, now make fun of Muslims, and it's like, well, I can certainly try,
Yeah.
but I'm not a practicing Muslim. Like I wouldn't know enough
Mm.
about the Muslim culture to like really poke fun at ins and outs of it. I can make like a generic joke and maybe it's
Right.
funny or maybe it flops because I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's
Yeah.
the guys like you would be able to do great job being comedic about probably the ins and outs of just fantasy football because that's what you know,
Right.
right? So it's always just been what I know and what I'm able to connect with people on. And yeah, once we got that confidence back a little bit, it was like, hey, we can be funny.
Yeah. So, okay, so that maybe that's a good transition, the confidence part. So,
Hmm.
what made you start like, okay, I just got to press record? Like, when was the
Yeah.
confidence there of like, I'm going to put this out there? And how was it your first few times of actually hitting record and then being like, yeah, I got to put this out? Like, no matter what, I got
Yeah.
to put this out.
I would say that the confidence started before TikTok even was a glimmer in our eye yet. Because I'm in college. This is probably 2017. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make Christian rap.
Mm.
For a time, a very brief moment in time, I was like, I'm going to be a Christian rapper. And so I made like two albums, in
Oh,
college.
wow.
I'm like recording in my, closet with a USB mic,
Now,
but I'm
what
like
was that? What
promoting
was that
myself.
Christian rap name? If of course, you gotta plug it here.
Well, Spencer, I don't know if you know this. Now I'm on Spotify, so
Oh,
you can just Josh Benson on Spotify. It's there. It's all
high
there.
roller.
It's in the
Okay,
archives.
okay, yeah,
But but like
yeah.
that's literally like that was like that was the start of the confidence of pressing record and like
Mm.
putting something out that was actually rap, which was in hindsight like I wasn't a good rapper.
Okay.
So the transition, if you can imagine, the transition to like social media was like, hey, well, this is I got to be better than rap at
Right,
this.
right.
And so COVID hits and we're all locked up. I'm living with like four other guys, just slumming it up in
Oh
some
yeah.
gross house, probably where COVID started, if we're being honest, just a disgusting place.
Yeah.
Like no one ever did the dishes. And so it's like, we're not doing anything else.
Mm.
And so I just would press record. And when I was in college, I had a really good group of friends. We would dress up in each other's clothes and we would film ourselves impersonating that guy. So,
Oh,
you got
wow.
the granola guy that would kind of play guitar. You've got the douchey guy. The guy told me, like, we were all very aware of our vices.
Yeah.
And so we would make fun of each other. And that was the first couple of videos that I did on TikTok was, well, let me make fun of my buddy.
Yeah.
I'll kind of dress like he did and just see what happens. And it just took off overnight.
Mm.
Like it was crazy posting it one night. Then I wake up the next day, 300,000 views. And there's people in like Wyoming being like, yeah, this guy exists at my church. And people in like North Carolina, I'm like, oh, this is everywhere. This is
Wow.
crazy.
Mm. And those buddies that you started it with, they're collecting royalties to this day, right? Like they get royalty checks on that.
Unfortunately, they're not. I
Oh.
told them there's no royalty checks. There's no NIL deals in the
Ah.
TikTok game, unfortunately. Name, image, likeness, it's all the
It's
wild,
not come
wild
out yet.
west,
It's not
unfortunately.
come out. I'm sure it'll come down
Not
to probably
yet.
yeah.
One day there will be a
Mm.
lawsuit that I'll get named in about
Yeah.
20 years where, hey, he was using my
Yeah.
persona and I'll have to pay up
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Well, as far as the challenges, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, like whether it was making comedy, doing content creation? What were some
Hmm.
of the biggest hurdles that you had to get over, maybe early on or maybe even recently?
I think early on it was just people like hate comments, which hate comments from Christians are very unique because the hate's like, you're just going to hell,
Oh
you know?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so starting out, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to be a funny guy and make fun of whatever. And, oh, this isn't Christ-like. You're mocking Jesus. You're going to hell. And I remember that first probably year or so, like I felt like I had to justify myself to every hate comment,
Mm.
like, well, yeah, no, this is what I believe and blah, blah, blah. And so that was a huge hurdle of just learning that not everything requires a response, and that
Wow. Yeah.
just because someone says something on the internet doesn't make it true, if you can imagine that.
Yeah. Well,
So getting over kind of the hate comments there and trying to learn, again, that's another level of confidence, right?
yeah.
Like I need to be confident enough in myself and my faith to be like, I can do this
Mm.
and not listen to people that are just insane on the internet. So
So
that was probably, I would say, the biggest thing.
how do you find that balance? Because this does happen sometimes, because I feel the same way when I started of like having to justify and like chase every head that was coming after me. And like, wait a minute, no, no, no,
Hmm.
no. I have my reason. I have my reason. But there is the fine line of sometimes maybe you post something that in hindsight is like, yeesh. Like,
Oh yeah.
so how do you how do you find that balance of like when the hate's coming of being like, okay,
Hmm.
maybe you're right. Like where do you be how do you handle that situation, whether it's from comments, whether it's making a response video? Like, when do you know to be
Hmm.
like, dang, maybe I messed up a little bit?
That's yeah, and that's a great question. That's where the people that I mentioned that I like to kind of test the videos with and see if they're funny,
Mm,
that's the same level of like accountability, right? Like my wife, again, a close group of friends of being like, hey guys, did I cross the line here?
mm,
Hey, there's a recurring comment in the comment section about me doing this or that, and it's different than usual. Guys, did I do too much? And if the answer
mm.
is yes, then it's either, you know, deleting the video, which I don't like deleting it and then acting like it never happened.
Oof, yeah,
So it
yeah,
kind of more or less coming and being like, hey, hand in the air, that's on me. I misrepresented this
yeah,
or I did this, and I feel like that is something that we don't see a ton of on the internet because you're able to just kind of like delete
yeah.
and then everyone forgets about what happened. So that's usually the process. It's kind of, hey, hand in the air, that's on me. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have made fun of this person and
Mm.
just let's move on. And usually we're able to move on.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on, I think is sometimes, especially with the pride of like wanting to be right, or the pride of
Hmm.
maybe not wanting to admit the mistake is the tough area. But
Yeah.
I would also let me ask this: what would you say is one of the best, or maybe one of your favorite videos that you made? And then also on the backside of that, what would you say is one of the like most controversial like videos that you made that you still stand by though? Maybe it was like that was
Mm.
controversial. It was tough, but you know what? I'm gonna stand by that.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one. I feel like from a controversial standpoint, I have to touch on really what happened with kind of the Mormon videos.
Oh man, I was just
So
I was sitting there thinking I think he's gonna have to bring up the Mormon videos, but yes,
got
let's
to,
let's
man,
do it. Let's do
because
it.
I made a video, and this was goodness at this point now, probably at least a year ago, kind of poking fun in backstory or not backstory, kind of disclaimer. I believe that I'm an equal opportunity comedian, meaning
Mm.
everybody can get made fun of. I don't think that. anything's off limits, whether it's Republicans, Democrats, this religion, that religion. I think that if we can do it in good taste, there's a lot of healing when we can make fun of each other and laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other. So in that fashion, I was like, okay, I'm going to make fun of kind of the story of Mormonism and how it came about. And, a lot of people thought it was funny. A lot of Mormons, when I posted that, this was my first video at the time. Oh, you're not getting the facts correct. You're actually insanely misled, blah, blah, blah. And dude, that inspired me to like really inspect the creation and the beliefs of the LDS Church of
Mm.
Mormons. So I'm talking like I was listening to podcasts, I was listening to lectures from a university. I was listening to like doing so much research because I was like, hey, I want to understand this
Right.
and kind of selfishly so that I can make fun of it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, the Mormon beliefs ended up being much crazier than I previously thought.
Mm.
And so it ended up being kind of a controversial thing because I pretty early on planted the flag of, hey, I don't believe that when we look at the standard of Christianity that Mormons are Christian,
Wow.
you know. And there were a lot of people who agreed with me that were Christians, but there were a lot of people who I think they knew who Mormons were. Kind of like me when I grew up. It's like I know that the Mormon Church is real and like it's whatever, but a lot of people are like, really, I didn't know that. Like I thought that they were,
Mm.
Christians just like we were. And of course, Mormons weren't happy with my,
Right.
reasoning there. But I would say that's probably the most controversial thing.
It's a slippery slope. I worked with this guy a couple of years ago who just crazy encounters. Sometimes you like meet people and then like those conversations that should have been like 2 minutes end up being like an
Hmm.
hour sometimes. And this was a genuinely good conversation. I worked with this guy. His name was Ben, and I think he was like in his 50s maybe. And he came up to me, and it was legitimately the first day I met this guy. And so I meet him. We get to talking, and pretty quickly it goes to faith, right? And, I'm talking about
Yeah.
how I'm a Christian, he's a Christian, and then he gives me his whole backstory right here, like in the middle of Walmart. He's like, no joke, we're standing in Walmart. He's telling me his whole backstory about how he was a Mormon. So like he grew up Mormon, his entire family is Mormon, and so apparently, from what he was telling me, it was like really hard for him to leave that because when he was trying to leave that, so he met his wife, and when he was trying to
Hmm.
leave that, it was like his whole family's like attacking him for like trying to leave
Yeah.
the Mormon faith. And the reason he was leaving wasn't because like it was just all of a sudden it clicked like, oh, this
Hmm.
is not correct. But if I get the story correct, he met his wife. His wife was a Christian, and his wife always wanted him like they get married as he's still a Mormon and she's a Christian, so like weird
Wow.
kind of situation there. But she wanted him to go to church, and when when they started having kids, I guess his wife had told him like we can have kids, but they're going to be going to my church. They're not going with you and your
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So he goes, for his kids. He's going to church with his wife, and over the years, he starts realizing like something's not right, and
Hmm.
that the Jesus of the Christian community is not necessarily the same thing I'm learning about, my whole life as a Mormon. And when he finally made the leap, it was really hard for him. But I remember him telling me that like the similarities that Mormons try to, and you would know more about this than I think I would from a hour
Hmm.
long conversation with a guy in Walmart. But the
Yeah.
similarities that there are from Mormonism to Christianity are like so close, right? It's like a wheat and a tare of it's kind of hard maybe sometimes from outside looking in to be able to really tell the difference, which is why when you make
Hmm.
maybe a Mormon video, the broad audiences who maybe aren't doing the research like you have are attacking based off they see the similarities.
Hmm.
And so your research, what would you say is like some of the key differences between like maybe if you wanted to go ahead and explain like guys, maybe you're not getting it. What are some of the key
Hmm.
differences between Christianity, what we believe,
Yeah.
and what Mormonism maybe is and what they believe?
So the biggest, right? The biggest difference, the cornerstone of what we believe as Christians, and I always say whether you're Orthodox, you're Catholic, you're Protestant, this is something that unites us, and
Mm.
that's the triune God, right? From absolutely like the first moment that we start, reading the New Testament, you look in the book of John, you look at the Nicene Creed, we believe church history wise and scripture wise in the triune God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, three in one, right?
Mm.
And I'm going to keep it there just so that I'm not getting too heretical because it seems like every time someone tries to it create an example for the
Yeah,
triune God. It ends
it
up
gets
being just
weird.
another,
Yeah, talk
we're
about
just making
egg
more
and
heresy.
yolk and weirdness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ice, water vapor. No,
yeah.
heresy. But the triune God, we
Mm,
believe that Jesus is God, right? Now, that's very crucial to the Christian belief. Now, when you look at the LDS Church, the belief is that Jesus is the literal Son of God, that God procreated with I believe it's heavenly mother, spiritual mother that
mm,
they reference. And we are all spirit children of God and spirit mother as well, or heavenly mother as well. So right off the bat, we see Jesus as being a subordinate,
mm,
result of God, so to speak. Not to mention the fact that Mormons also believe that God was once a man as we are, who has now been exalted to God. So there's a lot of polytheism in there as
okay.
well. But that's the big thing is they'll say, oh, we follow Jesus Christ, and it's like that's great, but who do you say he is?
Mm,
He's the son of God. But Mormons will use a very, slick language of we believe they're together in purpose,
mm,
or we believe that they are combined and unified in purpose or something of the sort there. But that's the biggest thing.
mm,
You ask any Christian that's, worth their salt in what they know, and they'll tell you that the cornerstone of what we believe is a monotheistic triune God.
mm.
And that is an absolute must in believing that. And Mormons don't, believe that. And there's some other things too, like Mormons are very, you look at the language in some of them, even the Book of Mormon, very works based.
Ah,
I don't know
yes.
if you knew this.
Okay.
Joseph Smith wrote his own version of like scripture as well.
Hmm.
And there are specific key areas where you see him, even kind of in his Joseph Smith Bible, try and kind of alter things to a sense of, they're more works based. It's, I think the Mormon verbiage is by faith after you've done all that you can do type deal.
Mm.
So there's other unique caveats there of like, yeah, doctrine and workspace and like, for example, doctrine with like dark skinned individuals. But at the end of the day, I'm talking to your elf about this because I'm
Yeah, yeah.
passionate about it.
No, no, no. That's
It's the
good. Yeah.
triune God. It's the
So,
triune God.
what would you say to people? And I know I've heard this illustration as well, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
need to fact check myself here maybe after this podcast here, but I think maybe even Bethel Church has done something and said something like that. But I know that um who is that? Help me out here. The mega church out in Australia. There's also one in New York and in Paris.
Hillsong?
Yes, 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 yes. Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Houston, I believe, is the guy
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these guys, Brian Houston, main pastor at Bethel, I can't remember his name, but these guys have all brought in the
Bill
elephant
Johnson.
analogy. Yes, yes, yes,
Is it
yes.
Bill
Johnson.
Johnson? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the elephant analogy, right? Of like, Christianity is the leg, and then you have Muslims are the arm, and but we're all on the same. It's all of it is leading to the same place. Like we're all one big family, right? Like maybe they're just have it a
Mm-hmm.
little wrong in this area, and these people have it a little wrong here. What would you say to the Bill Johnsons and Brian Houstons who have that analogy of like, while we are worshiping God and Jesus, that ultimately we're all of us are in good faith. We're all trying to get to the same place. What would you say to somebody who's using that analogy?
No, I would say that that's pretty retarded. Uh, no offense.
Okay.
like I sorry if I'm not allowed to say that on the
No, no,
podcast.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
You like it's I so I haven't heard Brian Houston or Bill. Like I don't think I'm familiar with the elephant.
Okay.
Whatever the theology or belief, but the way you're describing it to me basically sounds like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Hindu or whatever, as long as you worship your God and you're a good person, then we're all kind of going to the same place.
Yep.
It's kind of what I gathered from what you're
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
and I think that that's really really dumb.
Mm,
Um, because we could even look at individuals who worship a God who in the name of their God they kill other people, or they do this or that. And I think that we look at scripture specifically. Jesus said something very radical. He said, "I am the way, the
mm,
truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father but through me."
yes.
Like it wasn't like, no one gets to the Father but through like their God. Like he says, "Me,"
Mm,
you know. And so I think that when we just look at something like that, my heart goes out to, because it's always an interesting conversation of like, oh, what if you were born in the Middle East, and you grew up
yeah.
Muslim, a very difficult conversation. And I do believe that there are provisions for people who never hear the gospel of Jesus, because
I do
I
too.
think that we serve a just God. But for individuals who they hear the truth and they still say, "Yeah, I'm going to worship Ra, the sun god,"
Mhm.
actually, I don't believe in the elephant theory and that, hey, we're still going
Yeah.
to heaven
Yeah.
together.
And I think, the what about the person in the remote island that never the two
Exactly.
answers, yeah, the two answers to that. I'm sure you know who Wes Huff is,
Of
and
course, love him.
he recently talked about this, and I'm not even going to try to quote him because I'll butcher it like crazy. But my two answers to that would be number one, that's why it is important to spread the gospel. That's number
Hmm.
one. Let's go ahead and get that out there. But number two, I agree with you. Like there are provisions. Like God is a just God. Our God is a just God, and I think that there are. Do I know what those are exactly? No, no, I'm not. I'm not Christ, so I
Hmm.
can't answer that one. But I do think there are provisions to that person out in the middle of nowhere. The person that's living in the desert for their entire life
Hmm.
somehow, and they never.
Or a child who
Yeah.
dies before they're at the age of being even able to understand.
Mm,
I truly believe that. I mean, this is the perk of serving a God who is omniscient, omnipotent, who understands the soul and things greater than we ever could. And
right.
I trust his judgment.
Yeah. And that being said, again, I think that like you were about to allude to, the child that dies, before they can even understand that the person out in the
Hmm.
middle of nowhere. And by the way, let it be known that like these are the same type of things that I know have to get said like in your comment section from like people who
Oh yeah.
they don't actually want to have the conversation, right? They just want to bring up
Hmm.
like these red herring, if that's even the right statement to use, but like these straw man, that's what it is. The straw
Hmm.
man argument of like, all right, I don't want to actually have this. But what about the person out in the middle of nowhere? Or what about the
Hmm.
Mormon that's blank? You know what I mean? Like these are the things you're going to read in your comment sections that they don't really want to have that conversation with you. They just want to. It's gotcha
Right.
moments. It's gotcha moments. That's all that they're after is these
Right.
gotcha moments. Um, but man, yeah, I love the breakdown of the Mormon. So, what would you say is like some of your favorite videos that you've made though? Like, kind of going back to
Oh
that
man.
part. What's some of your favorite like? Man, either that was the most fun, or dang, that did so much better than I thought. Like, what's some of your favorite videos you've actually done?
I think probably one of my favorites is the lesbian Subaru video. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Um, that was something that was kind of a running joke, I believe, for a while. Like I certainly didn't create that joke,
Right.
but it kind of felt good to bring that back to the forefront of the
Mm.
internet for a hot second. And for those that haven't seen it, it's just me looking at a bunch of a video of lesbians dancing on a rooftop, and for each one, I kind of identify which
Yes.
Subaru they would drive.
Yes.
Um,
And you've done that
which,
for,
by
like other guys too. Like you'd be
yeah,
like, all right, this guy's in this truck or whatever. Man, I love those videos, dude.
exactly.
Those things so
I love
funny.
those. Those are fun.
Yeah.
The thing that stinks is it's tough to find a specifically curated video where there's like a bunch of people in it so that I can,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're individual characters. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, I can kind of have fun with this. But I think I enjoy those a ton. And just getting to do that. Which, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, like lesbians aren't offended when you say that they drive a Subaru,
Mm.
because Subaru made a very clear marketing campaign like in the 90s towards lesbians. So it's kind of like a whole thing. Like
No,
they
I
knew
did
what they
not
were
know
doing.
that. Yeah.
So
It's funny
not
too
offensive.
sometimes when you do
Great.
those guys, though, like where the guys, there's like 4 or 5 of them, and you already know, like when you see the guy who's got the hat just like barely sitting on the top of his head, it's like, all
Hmm.
right, here we go. All right, where's Josh
Yep.
Benson at right now? Like we need to go ahead and
Yep.
get this going. So
Yep.
what would you say is like who would you say rather is some of your favorite content creators besides myself right now?
Besides, I literally had you listed. You were my
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Daily Dynasty show, of course.
yeah.
Um, dude, one content creator that dude, I'm good friends with him. I'm actually moving down closer to him, so we're gonna hopefully start working on some stuff together.
Heck
The
yeah.
Lord's Giant,
Okay.
Benjamin Kessler. He's awesome, dude. He is extremely funny, but he's also super serious too. Like
Mm,
he can on a dime switch it up and be knowledgeable and educational, but he's hilarious. Sir Yacht.
okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the brand. He does like cool food challenges and stuff. Just like a wholesome guy. I feel like I'm drawn to just like wholesome people that are
Mm,
just like not remotely in the slums of the internet like I am. So I love Sir Yachts. Just any golf page like St. Andre's Golf.
mm.
love golf content. Like I watched Bryson DeChambeau's YouTube
Okay.
video the other day. That I'm like, dude, this is so sick. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are a couple right there. Anything golf related, anything funny, like I'm usually game.
Sweet. So, what would you say as far as the content creation? A lot of people out there, when they look at Josh Benson, over 1 million
Hmm.
followers collectively, he's got the secret sauce. So do all these other guys who they've got the big following. So they have to have the secret sauce because it can't just be hard work. But what would you say
Hmm.
has been you started at zero, just like everybody else. I believe you put your pants on like I do. But now you're over
Hmm.
1 million followers, right? Collectively. So
Yeah.
what would you say is like some key pointers that helped you get there, but like also like what is it? How did you get to over 1 million collectively, and
Yeah.
like how has that maybe like your perception of this content game and what it could be going forward for you specifically? Just tell me all about it. Tell me, is there a secret sauce that you have found, or is it
Hmm.
just the hard work?
That's a great question. For some people, there is a secret sauce, right? Like there are the stories of people that you hear that they like started making content and like their secret sauce is that maybe they're just like honestly super hot,
Hmm.
and they just kind of like exploit that, or maybe they have a very unique talent that does well on the internet. At that point, like secret sauce, they just post that and they get 500 1,000 followers overnight.
Hmm.
For me, I wasn't that guy. I started posting back in 2020, right when COVID hit. I've probably done like, good Lord, 4 videos a week,
Hmm.
at least since then, every week, no weeks off. And so the secret sauce for 95% of the people is just consistency.
Hmm.
Whether you're trying to be like a vlog type and make people just kind of fall in love with you so that you can just do whatever you want, kind of like your character, or if you have a niche and it's like, yeah, I'm posting about fantasy football, or I'm posting about my, comedy on this. It doesn't matter. You just have to be consistent.
Hmm.
Like you just have to get in front of the camera and goodness, post on days that you're like, I don't really feel like posting today, or maybe like, oh, this is like my second favorite bits. Like I don't like this one that much. Just post it. You know, that's the secret sauce. It's
Yeah.
continuing to do it. I've never had like a super overnight like holy cow type of jump. It's
Hmm.
just been the gradual little, and
Yeah.
that's honestly okay.
The consistency, that word I think is the number one thing. And when you said
Hmm.
that some people have the secret sauce of being hot, I thought that's where you were going for yourself for a second, but then you said you didn't have that. You didn't have that in the tool bag. But no, the consistency is the number one thing. Would you say though, when you were specifically looking at like your content game,
Hmm.
sometimes I think like when you're making content, or maybe I'm just weird. Again, it could just be me. You kind of get in that like you kind of do get in that like alpha male kind of mentality sometimes of like just do it when you don't want to do it. You're a
Yeah.
loser if you don't do it. You suck. Like, is that, are you the same way of like if you don't post today when you normally would, it's like dang,
Hmm.
I'm falling behind. I'm not doing it right. Or do you just look at content as like
Yeah.
this? When I get to it, I'll get to it. And I am
Mhm.
consistently, I'm posting weekly, but to me, it's just a side thing. Like, how are you viewing your
Yeah.
content and your path going forward?
Dude, I would say, I mean, obviously, like my wife and I, we have 2 kids and they're both under the age of 2. So
Mm.
that puts a bit of a dent in,
Yeah.
trying to be as consistent or maybe the quality. But I think another thing too, like more on the positive side of, I feel like I used to kind of be like that, like, oh, like, dude, you suck. Like, you should have posted
Mm.
today. You haven't posted in 4 days. Like, what are you doing? But I think I'm trying to flip the mentality to, I used to struggle with self-talk a ton. Like, I used to just be like, you suck. You're an idiot, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. That's a whole side thing about the perception of oneself leads to the results,
Mm.
as far as whether you're a car salesman, whether you're an influencer, whatever. Um, and so now it's kind of trying to convince myself that I'm a comedic genius. This is going to sound so conceited, but it's kind of like looking in the mirror and being like, no, like you do have the
You already
sauce
have
like
the
that. Like
thing.
you do have, yeah, you do have the thing. Like this isn't imposter syndrome
Mm.
anymore. And I feel like it's important to do that whether you have 600,000 followers or 6 followers,
Mm.
because people are going to buy into kind of the, I have no business saying this word because I'm over 25. They buy into the aura, right?
Mm.
They
Mm.
see the presence a little bit. And so
You're
Like I
right.
did a
You should
stand up.
not have said that word. You should
I
not have
shouldn't
said
have.
it. Yeah.
I'm too
No.
old for that.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
unk status now. I don't
Yeah.
get to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I did a stand up gig in Colorado. This was right before Christmas. This was my first gig of this length, right? It's 30
Mm,
minutes minimum. Um, First paid gig.
mm,
Imposter syndrome through the roof. I'm like, yeah, they think I can do this, really.
mm,
And you can ask my wife. She's looking at me in the hotel room in Denver. I'm just like looking at myself in the mirror, like the Uncle Sam pointing at you type deal. I'm
mm,
like you are a comedic genius. Like there's a reason you're being paid to come do this, and convincing myself that like, hey, like I can do this, and I am
mm,
funny. And as a result, in terms of posting, that kind of naturally flourishes because when you're like, yeah, I have something to say that people enjoy or they resonate with. It's like, yeah, I do need to post that.
mm.
It's almost posting out of not out of necessity of like, oh, I got to hit my numbers and I got to, it's
Right.
posting out of like I'm providing something to people that they
Mm.
enjoy,
Yeah. Like
whether
I've got
you're,
this
yeah,
creative thing I've got to get out of me. Mm,
got to get out of it. It's
mm.
like Shia LaBeouf in the scene of Transformers 2 when like, he had the stuff bottled up in his mind and he just had to write it up on the wall. It's like
Yes.
I'm overflowing with like this, whether you're a carpenter, like and you just got to show people woodwork or like whatever.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, like you're passionate, you're skilled, have at it.
So what would you say? Because there is a correlation here of the overflowing of creativity, the overflowing of
Mm-hmm.
passion, the overflowing of joy. I want to connect it here, but I don't want to sound too silly. So the overwhelming sense of like, man, today's a good day. Like I'm creative. Like da-da-da-da. I feel
Yeah.
like that is a correlation of so many things. Whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
relationship with your wife, the relationship with your friends, the relationship with Christ, the relationship to creating things. But what would you say as far as content creation goes? What would you say is when you're not, there could be a week where every day you're able to, post 5 videos, right? Like every day you're
Yeah.
just that, and then the next week there's not a single day where it's like, man, I've got, I slept in a little bit, I can't think of anything today. What would you say is
Mm-hmm.
your advice during those times? And maybe that can
Mm-hmm.
last for like 2 weeks, where it's like,
Yeah.
I just, man, I don't feel like it. I've got too much going on, or maybe I don't, and I'm just lazy. Whatever it is, or I can't think. Like
Yeah.
whatever it is, what would you say is your advice during those times?
I think first bit of advice is kind of don't be afraid to return to the well,
Hmm.
right? It's like, okay, it's a week. I don't have any like new ideas. I'm not able to contribute anything original, maybe. Like, I don't know what's going on. Don't be afraid to take a peek back and look at, the proof of concept. Hey, what videos did I post that did well?
Hmm.
Okay, like I did a video like this and it did pretty well, or this format, this theme did well where I kind of edited it up this certain way. What if I, combine the two or something of the sort? So first thing, don't be afraid to return to well. The internet forgets just about everything.
Hmm.
So it's like if you post a certain type of video that maybe you did 6 months ago, people, unless they're like your biggest fans that are obsessed with you, they're not going to be like, oh, you just did that. You just did that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
sucks, dude.
yeah.
So don't be afraid to return to the well. Don't be afraid to try new things. Of like, oh, I don't really have inspiration on this front, or like a Christian joke. Well, like, where am I drawing inspiration recently?
Hmm.
Like, I love fantasy football. Like, maybe I'll do a skit about that and see if I can make it funny. And let the notes app just be like your haven of just throwing down new ideas.
Yes.
And that being, again, the place that you go of like, oh, I don't have anything new today. Well, let's
Hmm.
see, what have I written down in my
Yes.
REM sleep, that I can kind of pull from.
Shout out REM sleep. I got this Aura ring, so I don't know if you've ever had one of these. So it just kind of it made me think of what you just said. So I
Oh,
got this Aura ring, right? Shout out to
mhm.
Aura, not a sponsor. Could be, probably won't be, but Aura ring. So have you ever heard of one of these things?
No, never.
Okay, so Aura ring, it basically is like an Apple Watch,
Hmm.
just on your finger, and it tracks everything. Anyway, you said REM sleep, and again, this might just show my stupidity. I didn't even know what that was till I got this ring. So like, I had no idea that REM sleep was just like the deepest sleep or whatever. So like,
Yeah,
like, so this thing tracks, right? And so like, I go to my Aura app, like the first time I ever had it, and it's like telling me all these different layers of sleep, and then REM sleep. Shout out, you said that, because now I'm like noticing it. Like people will say REM sleep, and
yeah.
I'm like, I know what that is.
I know
Aura,
what that is.
yeah, yeah.
It's important.
Yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is important. But the notes app, as far as like writing stuff down, that and voice notes, right? Like, just
Hmm.
opening up the voice notes app and whether you're a songwriter, whether you whatever it is, right? Like maybe just talking that idea out, and that way you're able to come back to it. And I think that's very
Yeah.
Very important. And like you said, the internet almost kind of forgetting a lot of things. Sometimes it might not seem that way when the internet might be, maybe grabs hold. But that's like the 1% of time, right? Like that's the 1% of time that they're
Yeah.
going to grab onto stuff. And again, unless they're like just the absolute biggest fan of yours, most people are not going to remember that you've already done something, whether it is the exact same or just similar, right? Or just similar to that. So as, kind of just continuing here, the best advice that you could give to up and coming content creators, that are starting the journey right now. They're seeing there's so many people that are already so big in my niche, right? Whether it's fantasy football, it's comedy, it's songwriting, it's carpentry, whatever. There's already so many big players, and even outside of the big players, there's already so many people doing it. Why should I do it? I want to do it, but what should get me over the hump? What would be your advice to those type of people?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, like be consistent, right? But I think the biggest thing, like I'm sure flashback with me, if you will, to like 2014 when this wasn't like $1 billion industry and it was just whatever. Like people used to do this stuff just for fun,
Mm,
if you can believe that.
yeah.
And now, like I remember I was a teacher and a coach in 2019 for some middle school and high school students. And I had a day where like I was a substitute for a history class and we weren't doing anything. So I was like, what do you guys want to do when you get older? And like the vast majority of them, just about everybody in the class said Twitch streamer, influencer, YouTube. And in my mind, that first was kind of mind blowing, like, holy
Mm,
cow, the world
yeah.
has changed. But it's like this is like a job to them.
Mm, yeah.
And like that burnout is
No,
you're
it's
able to get
real.
burnt out so easy.
Oh yeah.
So I would say find something that if you do want to pursue this, something that you like thoroughly enjoy
Mm,
and something that you're going to be okay if you post it and it gets 50 views for the
mm,
first 3 months and it doesn't stick because that can be discouraging as well when you're like, I'm doing the right things and I'm having fun and it's adding value and it just doesn't stick for anybody. You have to be okay in like the bad times,
right.
because it will stick eventually if you're consistent. But part of being consistent is you have to be doing something that you thoroughly enjoy. Like, hey, I love talking about this. I love doing this, and you won't get burnt out on it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Burnouts, getting discouraged, that eats people alive. I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody like have me on like a podcast or like we're talking about their page and they're like, this is what I want to do. And I'm so driven. Like I'm not even
Mm,
like I went part-time on my job for this. And it's like 2 months and they're out.
yeah.
And it's like, dog, you posted maybe 20 videos. Like you didn't even give it a go here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they probably didn't care about it that much. They probably saw
Mm,
like the lavish, like, yeah, I'll make millions doing this. No,
mm,
you won't make millions. You just
no.
got to lock in, do it for the fun of it. And then
Yep.
maybe one day it'll be all right.
Yeah, man. I completely agree because, kind of flashback to when I started this. So like, Daily Dynasty Show is I don't even know how many at time online for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like originally it was, musician, then it was touring musician, then it was just recording musician, then it was me and my friend Ben, different Ben, not
Mm-hmm.
50-year-old Ben. So me
Yeah.
and my friend Ben, we started a sports page back in 2015. Now we were just going based off of our names, okay? We were just going based off of our names, and so his name is Ben, my name is Spencer. So we were sports coverage. It was BS Sports Coverage. The name never stuck
There you
apparently,
go.
and the page never took off. But we did it for like 2 years. We ended up quit doing
Yeah.
it. And when COVID happened, I remember. So in 2022, I get out of the Marines, and I'm like, man, I've always wanted to do, fantasy football. Like I talk about it all the time with my friends. Like I feel like I am the most fantasy football out of all my friends. Like some of my friends
Yeah.
are like, yo, calm down, it's not life. And I'm like, but you don't understand. So 2022 start Daily Dynasty Show, got burnt out in 4 months. I actually stopped
Yeah.
posting anything for like, I think it was from October of 2022 until March or April of 2023. I never posted again. And then I realized like, I didn't do this so that I could come in and make $1 million immediately. Like that wasn't the goal. Like I did this because wanted to talk fantasy football and more importantly, just wanted to be in that community of other people who are crazy about it like I am. And so
Yeah.
kicked it
Absolutely.
back up. And that is the same mentality of consistency and realizing that, yeah, the majority of your early going is going to be nothing. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
nothing. But can you get through that to the point where it starts to mean something to a lot of other people, right? And
Yeah.
then all you need is for it to mean something to a few specific amount of people for it to to really take off
Well,
for
and that's
you.
the community aspect. Like
Mm.
that's probably something that I think I regret. And being like a content creator that didn't even know what that meant. Like I think the early days are really beautiful because if you do it right, those are the people that you keep on, that you see them keep commenting, they keep
Yes.
commenting. That's the community.
Mm.
These aren't like touch and go people, and hey, maybe you get 500,000 views, but it's people, these are people that like legitimately like, hey, I'm bought into what you're doing.
Mm.
And like that's the really cool part when you get to build a community
Yep.
around what it is you're doing. And that's when you can really make an impact,
Yep.
about, whether it's your niche in fantasy football or something way bigger than that. So
Yeah.
I think that that's something that's beautiful about the early days that often gets overlooked. I overlooked it because
Mm.
I was just like, how many views can I get? How many views?
Right.
And I kind of neglected that aspect of like, kind of, hey, if you want to be a part of my community, like, yo, let's do a Zoom call once a month.
Yeah.
Or like, yo, if you're in this area, let's go get a bite to eat or something. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
overlooked that.
Yeah, and I think that the pointing out of the ones who consistently comment, or they're like they realize, oh, shoot, you're on YouTube. All right, I'm subscribing over
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. Oh, you're on Twitter or
Yep.
X or whatever. I'm going
Bingo.
over there, and that right there, it is beautiful because sometimes you overlook it, but there are like legit. And that's the other thing too about like all this is online, obviously. So that's the thing. Like these are like actual humans who like what you're doing. Maybe you are
Mm-hmm.
early, but they like what you're doing. They like Josh Benson. They like Daily, whatever it is, right? Like they like what you're doing and they want to support while you're nothing. So, of course, they're going to support when you
Mm-hmm.
become, something, when you're a lot bigger. But yeah, man. So I love that. I love that. And I think that for the up and coming content creators, it's just important to note that, yeah, unless you, obviously, like unless you just get super lucky, most overnight successes happen after a few years. It's going to take time
Yep.
for that overnight success to actually come through. And when it
Yep.
does, it's almost like I heard this. I think it was, I'm having a brain fart right now. Owner of Barstool Sports. Help me out here.
Portnoy.
Yes, yes, yes. So he
Mm-hmm.
recently said the question was on I think he was on like Club Shay Shay or something like that or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was with Shannon Sharp, and asked him like how long did it take, or maybe the question was how hard was it for you to make $1 million or something like that, or what have you learned about money or some question like that. And
Yeah.
Dave Portnoy said that once you have it, it's a lot easier to get it. That like it took him 10 years to make $1 million, 10 years to make $1 million. But he said like if I
Yep.
needed to make $5 million by Friday, I know how to do it now.
Oh yeah.
So the point being of like it can be a grind of 10 years, 5 years, 2 years a day. Whatever it is, that
Yeah.
grind, right? Like the overnight success most of the time is not a legit overnight success, right? And
Right.
so
It's so much work on the back end. You're absolutely right.
absolutely. And as far as work on the back end, that is transition of let's talk some football here. Let's get
Let's
into
do
the
it, baby.
football here and listen. I noticed that from the beginning of the episode here, and for those who are just listening, Josh, why don't you tell them what jersey do you have on right now?
This is a Dallas Cowboys CeeDee Lamb jersey.
Mm, mm,
I'm representing. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm glad that you left that question out this far in because if they would have heard that you had a Cowboys fan off, a lot of
yeah.
people would have just dropped
Well,
off.
that's why
Like
I
this
did it.
guy has
That's why
nothing good to
I
say.
couldn't do it within the first 10
Exactly.
seconds.
It would have
Yeah.
been like, I'm not listening to a word this guy says. But
Well,
yeah, unfortunately for me and for everybody else in the city of Dallas, we are
yeah.
Dallas Cowboy fans.
And that's important to note that you are in Dallas, right? Like you're not just a
Hmm.
fan
Hmm.
outside of Dallas, which would be even
Right.
worse. But you are actually in Dallas, upsetting your
Correct.
entire lineage for the future, being a
Yeah.
Cowboys fan, right?
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, my whole family, because we're Texans for our entire lives. My entire family's Cowboy fans. We every year, every Thanksgiving, we've grown about Jerry Jones, and my mom and dad reminisce on the Tom Landry days, and it's
Yeah.
just it's a whole thing,
Jerry
But
Jones won't just die so somebody else can take over.
he's
It's a
got the
whole thing.
freaking adrenochrome or whatever existence serum he just
Mm,
keeps injecting, and
right.
it makes him make horrible choices. But yeah,
Hey.
we're Cowboy fans. We have a cool stadium at least. That's pretty sick.
So how do you feel about George Pickens? He's on the team now. How do you feel about that and going into this year?
I just bought my own Shiesty mask in solidarity with George Pickens, so
Saw
I'm
that
really
on the gram. I
excited.
think I saw that on the
Uh,
gram.
you did, so
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think it's good to have a clear cut wide receiver too. I don't think Brandon Cooks was that. I don't think Mingo or Ryan Flournoy
Mm,
are going to end
yeah.
up being that. So I think as many weapons as we can get back, it's important. And a deep ball threat like that, let's do it.
Absolutely, and I think that it's funny you bring up Mingo. So I think it was in 2023, maybe when I think it was
Hmm.
2023 he got drafted. I was talking about because sometimes in dynasty fantasy football content creation, right? Sometimes you just got to get deep in the oh man, you got to go deep down there to start finding some people in the
Yeah.
offseason. And I remember when I was talking about Mingo, it was like, oh man, this guy comes from Ole Miss. He's built like A.J. Brown and some of these other guys that have been successful out of there. But I remember like he didn't actually have that crazy of a year ever until his senior season when they were all
Hmm.
gone. When Elijah Moore was gone, A.J. Brown, all those guys are gone. And he like his best season, if I can remember correctly, it's like 800 yards and maybe like a few touchdowns. And so
Hmm.
him going to Carolina should have been something, but like him going to Dallas, I think he's just going to get buried in that depth chart. I think Brandon Cooks at this point of his career, like you said, like he's not a wide receiver too. He is a Tyler Boyd in that offense though, like a Tyler Boyd
Hmm.
to T Higgins and Jamar Chase. Like so Brandon Cooks could
Hmm.
be that third guy to George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and whatnot. But yeah, I'm excited about George Pickens being there.
Hmm.
Listen, who knows about his attitude issues, right? Is what it is. But I'm excited. I'm excited, and that's coming from a Philly fan. I just want to see those two work, with Dak Prescott. And
Oh yeah.
what's your expectations this year for Dallas, though, realistically?
Realistically, if we can keep the defense healthy, I think that we have a very realistic shot of making the playoffs
Hmm.
if we can stay healthy on the defensive side of the ball. We've got, I feel like, some dogs in the secondary. Linebacker squad, leaves a little bit to be desired there, but I love our, rushing capability if we can stay healthy,
Hmm.
right? With Diggs, Diggs should be back by game one. Overshown should be back by November. We've got some guys. I believe we drafted that cornerback out of East Carolina who
Hmm.
tore his ACL even. If we can stay healthy,
Yeah.
I think we have a great shot. So, at maybe not dethroning the Eagles necessarily, but I think we have a good shot at making the playoffs and making a run.
History's
Big
on
if
your
though.
side of that crazy NFC East stat of like I don't even know how far back it goes of nobody has went back to back in I don't even
Hmm.
know how many years. So I mean, if history continues and the Madden cover
Who
curse
knows?
persists, it looks like maybe the Eagles won't be back-to-back NFC East champs. But that division obviously has came a long way from
Oh
NFC
yeah.
least because
Oh yeah.
that's absolutely crazy. As far as fantasy football goes, though, who would you say is like your top three? I got a few questions here as far as the fantasy
Yeah.
football
Yeah.
concerns. Who's the top three rookies that you're excited about? Whether that's just for dynasty purposes or immediate impact players. Just top
Hmm.
three rookies that you really like coming out of this class that are not named Ashton Genty.
Yeah. Not named Ashton Jeanty. Well, ironically enough, going to the Ole Miss train, I think the first one is Jackson Dart.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not going to sit here and act like I can watch film on a quarterback and really identify how good his arm talent is. Like obviously I can tell you what bad arm talent is, but when I look at a guy like Jackson Dart, I think the thing that jumps out to me for fantasy that people are seemingly kind of writing off are his legs.
Mm.
This guy can move a little bit. He's mobile. I get it. He's a white guy, so maybe we don't think scrambler, and maybe he's not a legitimate scrambler. But when we talk dynasty football, fantasy football, you want a guy with legs.
Mm.
That's going to get you like that's the difference typically in quarterback two and quarterback one. As far
Yeah.
as a tier goes, like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, those guys can move a little bit. So
Mm.
all that to be said, I think Jackson Dart's a guy that I'm excited about. I think he does overtake Russ probably pretty quickly. He's got some weapons, right?
Mm.
He's got Malik Neighbors. I think Theo Johnson's a slept on tight
Yeah.
end. Dude is huge.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of good receiving backs and Tyrone Tracy and Scattaboo. So I think he has an okay year. He's a rookie. Will it be the best year ever? No, but I think if he can get his legs going, he's going to be all right.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I like Jackson Dart. And listen, you're making the comparison there, white quarterback. But who was the last white quarterback drafted in the first round for New York? Daniel Jones. He could
Oh
run. You
no!
know what I mean? He could run a
Don't
little
say
bit.
that.
For fantasy football, he did finish top 10 once. It was there with
He did.
Brian Dable. With Brian Dable.
Oh,
So
so what you're telling me is that this is basically Jackson Dart's a much more handsome Daniel Jones, is what I'm hearing
I
here.
think he. No, no, I hope not. I hope not. I think he's a better
Yeah.
runner. I think he's a better passer, like, legitimately. Daniel Jones should have never even. I think Daniel Jones, if I can remember correctly, had like a third round draft grade when that draft actually
I
happened.
was shocked that they took
Man,
him that early, but you know,
yeah, it is what it is.
they were
Sometimes it
calling their
happens.
shot, and,
They
and yeah, it
were.
didn't pan out.
Listen, he took him to a playoff game. I think he may
Yeah.
have even won a playoff game that season with what was that 22 or 23 the first year with Dayball there. I can't remember, but I know he took him to a
Oh,
playoff game. I know he
did
did.
they? Or they got killed by the Eagles? One of the two.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Either way,
That was a
Hey,
great
you know
year.
what?
Love that for
Good
him.
year. Hey, he got the money. Got the money. Good for
The
him.
difference was probably
Um,
Saquon Barkley.
yeah, yeah. And I would say probably one of my first favorite rookies, and I know we're going to agree here, so maybe I'm saying one of your guys, and if so, you can just hit the I
Mm-hmm.
agree button, and we can go to your third one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kyle Williams for the Patriots. I think that
Yeah.
Kyle Williams, man, I've been so big on him, and I know that I believe it was a couple weeks ago, and you'll have to remind me exactly who. I think you asked me Kyle Williams straight up for Carolina receiver. You said, should you do that trade?
Xavier Leggett?
No, maybe it was
Coker? It's
Coker.
Coker.
Yes,
I was a
Coker.
cokehead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And
Yeah, yeah.
you had asked me, should I do that trade? Should I send Coker for Kyle Williams? I would say 100% every time.
Yeah.
Yes. Kyle Williams, he's very fast, but one of the biggest things that stood out to me about Kyle Williams is his separation metrics in college, and obviously like his
Mm-hmm.
breakout age and stuff like that. Like he was above average when it came to the breakout age. His dominator rating was like just right under elite. And where
Mm-hmm.
he went to and how low he went. I mean, listen, I understand that wide receivers being drafted the Patriots is normally not good. But now
Mm-hmm.
we've got Mike Vrabel there. We've got Drake May there. And Kyle Williams' separation, I'm not saying he's meant to be the immediate number one there, but his game just reminds me a lot, okay, of Rashee Rice. And I remember when Rashee Rice
Yeah.
got drafted, he was going in like the third round of dynasty rookie drafts the year he went to the Chiefs, right? Like while he was a rookie, he was going in like the
Yeah.
third or fourth round of dynasty rookie drafts, being heavily overlooked. And before the last few weeks of like guys like myself, you and other guys like kind of raising the horn on Kyle Williams because now his values went up. He's literally, if you're in a 12-man league, I mean, he's going bottom of the first, early second in some leagues right now, which
Yeah.
is way higher than it was just a few weeks ago. I mean, he was going at the bottom of the second, early third. So Kyle Williams reminds me a lot of Rashee Rice, and he's definitely one of my favorite rookies. And again, maybe it's not an immediate impact player, right? Like maybe he doesn't do anything
Yeah.
for the first few weeks, but in dynasty purposes, I'm all over Kyle Williams. I mean, it's nasty how much I am all over Kyle Williams for dynasty fantasy football.
Yeah. Just all over him. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's the kind of guy, you're going to war. He's the kind of guy you want him in your hole, your foxhole. You
Yes.
want Kyle Williams in your hole. So I agree. I think he's a dog. I think he has a clear pathway to starting, right? So you have Stephon Diggs, sure, he's coming off the injury, but like Patriots wide receiver room is decrepit.
Yep.
Maybe Pop Douglas, but I think that he has a good chance at making that leap pretty quickly. Now I have another one. Okay, another rookie that I really, really, this is a nasty guy. This is for the guys that are in like 12 team, 14 team leagues. Hey, that's cool, guys, but like I want somebody that's on the waiver wire that I can pick up and really cheer for. And this is another Patriot. Patriots undrafted free agent rookie running back Land Larison.
Oh,
right?
wow. We are
Land
getting
Larison.
nasty here. Okay.
We're getting crazy. Obviously, he's not going to come in and start, right? They've got Travion Henderson. They've got, what's his face? They signed him to a 3-year deal. Ramondre Stevenson. But Land Larison, dude, I watched this guy's film, all right? This dude is insanely versatile. Great athletes, great 40 time, great hands. Dude can do just about everything. This guy, believe it or not, Land Larison, he went to like UC Davis, like a small little FCS school. He played special teams, not just punt return, but punt team, kickoff team, so that he could be prepared to do so in the NFL and make a squad.
Wow.
They signed him to an insanely lucrative UDFA deal. This is the kind of guy that Mike Vrabel wants on his team. So I fully believe that he's going to make the roster. I think Antonio Gibson, see ya. And I think that ipso facto, he's going to be so versatile that they are going to include him, offensively, whether it's third downs, whether they have special packages. I think that this guy
In
Will he
some
be a
deep
league winner?
leagues.
Probably
Yes.
not.
Yes.
In a
Yes.
deep
Yes.
league, I think he's worth throwing on the taxi.
That is an
Absolutely.
incredible name, man. Shout out to the deep, deep, nasty work. Listen, you're not going to find anywhere else, right? Like this is
Right.
Josh Benson. This is Spencer. Here we are on Daily Down. I mean, this is the deep, deep weeds that you wanted to listen to, right?
We're
So
getting
I
nasty
think,
with it. Yeah.
yes, very nasty. The next name I wanted to kind of talk about was Jalen Milroe, and the
Yep.
reason I wanted to bring him up is kind of like going what you said about Jackson Dart of the legs. Listen, Jalen Milroe in college as a sophomore beat Georgia for the SEC title. Okay. Yes, he did go back and lost, and then obviously a senior season, some questionable calls, right? But the point is, Jalen Milroe, he is very, very talented. Third round draft pick by the Seattle Seahawks, and that contract that Sam Darnold has, it's a lucrative deal, very similar to I'm trying to remember who else got a similar contract that's kind of like that this year. Or maybe last year. I know it's very similar to Derek Carr, but the point is, after year one, Seattle can get out of that contract. It's very similar to the Patriots and Stephon Diggs. After year one, they can very easily get out of that contract. So if Sam Darnold doesn't work out, if it's just something where, listen, the Kevin O'Connell system is just way too QB friendly, and congratulations to Sam Darnold getting the bag, but after year one it didn't work out, we're going to move on with Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, he's got the arm that's inaccurate, yes, but maybe sitting behind Darnold for a year and just sitting in this NFL system, right, and maybe working out the accuracy. Everything else is there for him to be, man, incredible for fantasy football. I'm talking the legs.
I agree.
It's just all there. And to me, it's an easy comp. I know. I don't care. It's Jalen Hurts. That's the comp that I have of Jalen Milroe, especially for fantasy football. And he is, a lot of scouts were saying that Jalen Milroe is the best running quarterback they've ever scouted, including Lamar Jackson. So
I believe it.
if it can work out, like he can actually see the field, become the starter at some point, Jalen Milroe would be one of those guys that right now you're getting at a heavy discount in dynasty rookie drafts. You're going to have to hold on to him, right? Like he's going to have to sit in the taxi squad. But the point is, man, that guy, if he can get on the field, though, oh, man, he has got the upside with those legs to be a top 10 quarterback for fantasy football purposes.
Got a spot in the taxi. Give it a couple games, right? We know he's probably not going to start this year, at least midway through the season, right? Bearing injury or something catastrophic. Let Sam Darnold go out. Maybe when it's a week 5, week 6 game, he torches somebody. Milroe looks, no path to starting it. Throw the Milroe owner, a 2027 third. Throw him a nice little 2026 fourth. See if they bite. Depending on maybe when they took him. If they reach for him in the second, they like the guy, so maybe not. But yeah. I think there's a world too where you can get him even at a bit of a discount midway through the season for someone that doesn't have that long-term picture. They're like, oh man, he's not starting. Maybe he's going to be a dud. Go get him, dude.
Yep, I agree. The last name I wanted to mention, and then I'll send it to you to end it on the rookies here. It's too easy of a name, I understand, but it's Omarion Hampton, right? So Omarion Hampton is a guy I think is going to be Ashton Genty's the name. He's the guy, and listen, rightfully so. But Omarion Hampton is in a system, and by the way, is a freak of nature. I don't know if you saw that picture with him and Harbaugh, but that guy is a freak of nature. He's just a giant. But anyway, Omarion Hampton is a guy that I could see easily finishing above Genty in this Harbaugh system for fantasy football, not meaning that Genty's not going to be bad. But, man, Omarion Hampton is a stud. He's been a stud at UNC. I love Omarion Hampton. And in this Harbaugh system, man, and we know how Harbaugh likes to use the running backs. And Omarion Hampton in full PPR leagues, he's got the pass-catching work. So, I don't know, man. I love Omarion Hampton. He's not going to be the first running back off the board dang near ever. So, whoever is getting him, I think is actually maybe in the long run, hot take, getting the better of the two. Hot take.
Stranger things have happened, so that's I disagree.
It's fine.
5 years from now, we might look back on this and be like, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Hey, listen, sometimes you got to swing for the fences, all right? Sometimes you got to do that. But what would be your last rookie before we move on here?
I mean, is this this isn't a deep stash or anything? It's Emeka Egbuka, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly.
I think you are.
I think that great coming out of college, control. or path to starting, production in college, and then just looking at route metrics. And I feel like all three of those are Emeka. You look at Chris Godwin. I think that realistically, he's not going to be back. McMillan, I think he's good, but I think that there's a reason they took Emeka in the first round. And Baker Mayfield loves to sling it, dude. He loves chunking up the deuce here, and they have all these vacated targets. I think he's going to slot in and play early, early production for sure.
Yeah, I love Egbuka, and I loved him in college. I think that it might take a little bit. It might take a little bit this season immediately, but I think he's going to have a very similar path to Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think him and Jackson Smith-Njigba for fantasy are going to have a very similar pathway as far as, how it's going to look. Yeah, you're going to have to grab him in the first, and maybe it doesn't pan out like immediately. Like maybe it's not a top 20 season immediately, but he's their guy for the future. And I think that if you can just hold on and be patient, like a lot of JSN managers had to be, I think it's going to work out.
That we see the pathway to production even in the coming years of like, hey, this is our guy until we say otherwise.
Yep. All righty, so I got two more questions for you here. Actually, three, but the third one's a short one. But these next two, we'll do it your way. Do we want to start with the trade away candidates or the trade for candidates in fantasy football? Which one do you want to start with?
Because I've got one in there that might be a little contrary to something you just said.
Okay.
For one of your rookies. So I would say let's go trade for.
Let's do it. Let's start trade for. And Josh, go ahead. Take the floor. What's your first one?
Talking trade for, or sell, right? You always have to do it within the context of your team. We don't exist in a vacuum. So right now, in my mind, I'm saying trade for contenders, right? Rebuilder, these are not guys that maybe you're wanting to trade for. You're probably just trading for picks at this point, maybe already. So trade for candidate, I would say my top trade for candidate right now, because you can get them on the low, is Najee. Get it, Amari and Hampton, shiny new toy, and he's a dog, and rightfully so. Amari and Hampton is, I would say, the 1A for that offense, but we know historically, Roman running backs. We also know that historically in the NFL, rookie running backs don't come in and handle 15 to 20 carries a game. In fact, there's only been one rookie running back since 2019 to average more than 15 carries a game.
Rookie since 2019?
Average more than 15 carries a game.
I don't think it was Bijan, but I'm gonna guess Bijan, but I don't think that's it.
Najee Harris.
Whoa!
So that's a kind of a roundabout way of telling you.
Yeah.
I think Najee Harris has always been a productive guy. I know he looks a little sluggish, and he had the year with the foot injury in Pittsburgh, and his yards per carry might not be insanely sexy, but also he's getting behind a great line.
Yes.
He's getting in a great system. Is he going to handle 15 carries a game?
He's on a one-year deal right now.
A guy that's probably going to get you maybe 10 carries a game, maybe some goal line work, who knows? So I would be buying Najee Harris, especially if you need maybe like an RB3, somebody to back up a couple of studs for a bye week or something, or a nice flex. I would definitely go get them.
Yeah, I love that because, like you said, especially for win now. Listen, these guys who are on these running backs who right now he's on a one-year deal, right? And other situations like this where whether it's their last year on their rookie deal or a guy like Najee Harris who he needs to ball out to get that next contract elsewhere. And we know it's not going to be in LA because it's going to be Omarian's, room after this season. I love that. Because Najee, yes, of course, he's going at a cheap price right now because Omari and Hampton, he's the guy, right? He's the shiny toy, just like you said. So Najee, I love that. I'm going to go here. I'm going to switch it here. Trade for, I'm not necessarily, this could work for, contenders as well. He was incredible. But Rashee Rice. I love Rashee Rice. We just got the, I guess you could say, breaking news or whatever. But anyway, he's not going to be suspended in 2025. So Rashee Rice is a guy you've got to go get. His value's been definitely low because of the suspension. Now that that's been lifted, the value's going to go higher. But still, Rashee Rice is a guy that if Patrick Mahomes didn't decide to dolphin dive into his knee last year, he would have finished a top 5 wide receiver. And Rashee Rice is incredible. He's just incredible in that offense. He's the de facto wide receiver 1. I love Xavier Worthy. But, Xavier Worthy is the Devonta Smith to Rashee Rice isn't built like him, but he's the Jalen Waddle to the Tyreek Hill of that offense, which is Rashee Rice. I love Rashee Rice, and yeah, he's going to be good for contenders too, because like I said, had you stretched out what he did last year to a full season, it would have been a top 4 wide receiver finish. So Rashee Rice is a guy I definitely, think everybody should be trading for right now.
He was heartbreaking. Saying that, watch, he was in my redraft team, and that was the day that I kind of put myself on a T-shirt in that league and just said, hey, it's been fun. Remember whenever he was healthy? Holy cow! But yeah, Rashee Rice is a dog. I would definitely go get him if you could.
All right, so who would be your next trade for candidate?
This one might be a little contrary, especially everything given going on. But again, I like finding value, right? Jaden Reed. Okay.
Okay.
Hugh Golden, Josh, Jaden Reed's going to see an even lower target share. I know kind of what the consensus is with that. But again, we're talking about a guy, wide receiver 29, wide receiver 25, last 2 years. He's able to, this is a guy that they have to kind of script up plays for. Maybe he's not the type of guy that wins against man coverage, yada, yada. Well, as the wide receiver 29 and 25, I think it's obvious that LaFleur likes to script up plays for Jaden Reed. And I think another thing that people don't realize is that last year the Green Bay Packers were in a lot of positive game scripts, and they ran the heck out of the football. This wasn't just an interesting year for Jaden Reed. It was an interesting year for Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson when he was healthy, Dontavian Wicks. So I think we look at this year, the Packers have the 8th hardest schedule, I believe. With the Vikings, and they've got the Eagles. They've got, their entire division's pretty difficult through the roof.
Yeah.
So I think that we look at the Packers, they're not going to be in these positive game scripts. I think it's very realistic to expect them to throw the ball a lot more. Yeah. And I think Jaden Reed's going to benefit from that. Sure, Matthew Golden's there, another mouth to feed. But I don't see Matthew Golden slotting into his role. I think that's going to more kind of take away from, that's kind of a Christian Watson replacement since it's his contract year and he is made of glass anyway. So
yes,
Jaden Reed's a guy. I'd say go get him.
Yes, I agree. Can you hear me? Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I agree, and I think that looking at the schedule as well as like the toughness of the schedule doesn't necessarily indicate that it's going to be like, okay, here's a 100%. But I definitely think that's a good indication of like, okay, maybe this doesn't mean, like you said, it's always going to be a positive game script. One of the next names, and I love that you brought up the value, one of the next names that I wanted to bring up for trade for is Justin Fields. I think that Justin Fields is an incredible kind of buy now asset because while he has the 2-year deal with the Jets, I think that this first season with the Jets, the reason he took the deal with New York instead of Pittsburgh offered him a very similar deal. It was $10 million less over the 2 years, so $5 million less a year. But the main difference was that he is guaranteed the starting role for 2025. Is he guaranteed both years? No, but he is guaranteed 2025. And we know what Justin Fields is when he's fully healthy. He is a top 10 guy if he gets to play the full season. Last year he would have finished QB7 if you stretch it out to a full year. When he played the full season in Chicago, he finished QB7. And why? Goes back to your point, the legs. A running quarterback breaks fantasy football. And I think that his value right now is just low. I mean, is it higher than it was last year? Yes. But does that mean it's high? No. I think it's still a very low value.
Yeah, the price that you're paying for a quarterback. And again, could it be a 1-year rental? Sure. It could flop. Absolutely. We know that Justin Fields has been less than stellar at times. But if it hits, then, I mean, goodness, you're trading away maybe a second-round pick, second and third, to get a guy who is 26, and he all of a sudden he establishes himself, and it's like, oh, now I have this running quarterback for the next 5 years. Like solid risk to take. I would agree.
I agree. What would be your next trade, your last trade for candidate here?
Okay, I've got another nasty guy for you here, okay? Because I love throwing in names that we know, but this is another guy that I've really kept my eye on, and you can get him so cheap, dude.
Yes.
Keaton Mitchell. Ooh. He might be on your waiver wire. But if a guy still got him, I wouldn't hate throwing like a 4th-round pick for Keaton. And here's why. We look at his production, his rookie year with the Ravens. Dude was he handling 15 carries a game? No. but he was insanely productive, both right, like receiving as a back, and even just taking the carries. He tears his ACL.
Mm.
Last year didn't really come back to form, but we know, Spencer, that these injuries, they take more than a year to come back from typically. You see guys, whether it's an Achilles, it's an ACL. Typically, it's not that first year back, it's that second year back where we really see them like, oh, okay. So do I think Keaton Mitchell is going to overtake Derrick Henry? No, of course not. But I think the Ravens love to run the football.
Mm.
I think that he can easily slot into that Justice Hill type package that they have going on there. Justice Hill's kind of getting over the hill a little bit, no pun intended. So I love Keaton Mitchell. I think this is a make or break year for him.
Okay.
But I love him with the
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens. I think that he could be a guy that develops. Is he going to be a full time back? Maybe, maybe not. But I think to hit like an Austin Eckler type role, I think he could definitely do that.
Nasty work there with the Keaton Mitchell shout.
Very
I like
nasty.
it. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
My last one here is going to be Breece Hall, and again, I think that his value, just because of the last season finishing RB16, it definitely felt like a tough RB16 to watch. But his value is very low right now for a guy that is a top 10 guy. He's an incredible pass catcher. He's an incredible running back. And even if he gets dealt, we know that there's been tons of trade rumors for Breece Hall all the time this offseason. I saw one the other day that said, like, it's possible that if the Jets miss the playoffs, like before the trade deadline, if they've just lost too many games, that there's no way they can get me back in it, that he would be a main trade away candidate. Again, don't know if that's actually going to happen. But either way, Breece Hall is a guy like, his skill just demands you to have him in Dynasty if you can get him. And I think right now is a time that his value would demand, why not go trade for him, especially if you need a top-tier running back. And to me, Breece Hall is still is he tier 1? No. But he is still a top-tier running back, I think, for fantasy football.
Yeah. In the mental aspect, too, when you look at fantasy football, Dynasty specifically, it's kind of like just investing. You don't want to go out and pay, a price for a guy when he's at his highest, whatever. But you need to look at a guy like Breece Hall, who's taken a dip in value, and he's a proven asset. Now is the time to buy those types of assets, right?
Yeah.
And so I definitely agree with you. Whether you like Breece Hall or you don't, or you like the Jets or don't, you have to agree that this is like a pretty top tier running back that's like valued at a discount, and got to go get him.
Love the analogy of investment. I think I've made that one so many times before of like, you just got to know when the right times to buy and sell are. And speaking of that, what are some of your favorite trade away candidates right now? Speaking of, the good time to maybe just get out, even when the iron is hot, but sometimes maybe it's just the best time to get a king's ransom or to make the most of a player's value you've got.
I think the first guy that I would sell, and again, we put this in the context, right? It's not just always in a vacuum. If you're selling some of these guys, you might be a rebuilder. You might be middle of the pack, like, I don't know. But I think that guys that I would look to sell, if not now, maybe a couple games into the season after they've popped a little bit, especially if you are rebuilding. First of those would be Jacoby Myers. Okay. Now, that might be a hot take because everywhere I look, I see people banging the drum. Jacoby Myers, like, look at his production. It's going to be another year like last year. Like, this guy's going to be their dude. Here's what people aren't seeing for Dynasty. Redraft, sure, go get him. Contract is up after this year. The Raiders drafted a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Jack Besh, Ashton Genty, Deontay Thornton, who there's a ton of drum beats coming from camp saying that he's a polished route runner. So I think that you look at the offensive talent that they drafted, having Genty, I think that there's a realistic expectation for Pete Carroll to run the ball more. Like last year they had Sincere McCormick as a starting running back at one point, Of course they're going to just sling it to Jacoby. I think now you kind of look at it, it's like, oh, like we're going to be running the rock first, second down, especially a guy like Pete Carroll. So do I think Jacoby's going to fall off the face of the planet? No, but he's 28, contract year, new regime, new talent around him. I think now would be the time to kind of get out from under him.
Yeah, and I think, just because you're trying to trade these guys away doesn't mean you believe they're going to fall off or something like that, maybe, or that they're immediately going to suck. But kind of like you said, this is a contract year. That could be a great way to sell it, of like, man, if you thought Jacoby Myers balled out last year, in order for the guy to get another contract, he's going to have to ball out this year. So give me 7 first-round picks, and we got a deal. Yeah. But I would say kind of another one like that, though, is Bucky Irving. Right? Like, he's a guy that I am definitely trying to trade away right now. And, hey, listen, sometimes you got to recognize when maybe you are switching what you're saying. Now, recently in the last 2 or 3 videos I've made, mentioning him. And I think even in one of the podcast episodes last week or the week before, well, wouldn't have been last week, but maybe a couple weeks ago, I did say Bucky Irving is a guy you need to sell. But maybe a few months ago I was saying get him. But literally in these last few months, his hype has just it's gotten unreal. Like the Bucky Irving hype is insane. And I have had trades. I think I posted something on Twitter maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago of like, which of these 4 running backs would you rather have in Dynasty? And it was like Bucky Irving, Omari and Hampton, Breece Hall, and I can't remember the other one. And it was overwhelming Bucky Irving.
Crazy Bucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then some of the trades were like people would send screenshots where they got Bucky Irving. They got like they're proud of this. They got Bucky Irving for sending Breece Hall in a second or sending, these deals where it's like,
gosh.
I believe Bucky's going to have a good year. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I agree with, I'm sure you know who Upper Hand Fantasy is. I don't know if you've seen him maybe on Instagram. Okay. Well, he thinks that Bucky Irving is going to have a Devon Achane-like season. Okay. That's what he thinks. And so I can see the path that Bucky Irving has an insane year because he is such a good pass catcher as well. So if you're playing in PPR, you're going to be getting the pass catching points as well, right? Like it's just going to happen with Bucky.
I get it.
I can see him having a great year. I'm not saying you should trade him away because I think he sucks or he's going to do bad. I'm saying with the trades that I've seen people have been able to get with Bucky Irving right now, brother, I'm taking Breece Hall in a second all day long for Bucky
every
Irving
single
right
time.
Now. So that's my reason why I'm wanting to trade him away. The value's just insane.
I agree. Like too, you still got Rashad White over there. You still got Sean Tucker. Are those guys better than Bucky? No, but I think Bucky's being priced in right now of like being the clear alpha RB1, and I just don't know if that's the case when you have 2 guys who have made the case to get a couple carries, a couple touches a game. So I don't know if Bucky's the clear alpha that people are paying for him to be.
Right, and I can see him finishing top 10 this year, maybe RB7, RB8, something like that. But if I can right now, before the season starts and people realize maybe I shouldn't have done that, if I can right now go get Breece Hall in a second, I can right now go get Omari and Hampton plus something for Bucky Irving.
Sure.
Brother, I'm taking it all day.
Every single time.
What's your next trade away candidate here?
Next one's going to be Joe Mixon. Okay. Now, that might seem a bit obvious, like aging running back. But again, we're talking in the confines of maybe being a rebuilding team. Or maybe you're a team that's a contender going to another contender just to get something, kind of like we're saying, we could get something plus, right? But I think when we look at Joe Mixon, old guy, you look at the Texans, they traded up to get Woody Marks. Okay, they went and got their guy. They signed Nick Chubb. Is that just a lucrative contract? No, but historically when a team signs a running back after the draft like this, it's not for nothing. Typically they get thrown in a little bit. I don't think it's a sign of the times, but I just don't anticipate Mixon carrying the ball 250 times like he has the past couple of years. So, is he still going to be a solid RB2? I would anticipate it, maybe RB3 for another year or two. But I would say mid-season pops off for, 110 yards and a touchdown or something. That would be a good time to go ahead and be like, okay, let's get our value, get him to a contender, and draft a running back with whatever pick I get from this.
Right, because the flip side is you don't want to wait too long. Like, you don't want to wait too long where it's like, well, now I've just got to ride it out because I'm not going to get anything but a bag of chips for this guy. So, yeah, you don't want to do that. My next one here is going to be Dalton Kincaid. I don't even think that his value is incredibly high right now, but I don't think it's going to get much higher as the years go by. I think I was way higher on Dalton Kincaid a couple of years ago than I am now, just because, it just seems like that system in Buffalo just does not necessarily need Dalton Kincaid. It doesn't need him, because if there was a year, it was last year to be like, okay, they need somebody. When you have nobody, when Keon Coleman is like the guy for Buffalo as a rookie, and James Cook, is lighting it up, but if there was a year where it's like, all right, there's a clear need for a receiving option that's not named James Cook that can, help, that would have been it, and it just didn't happen. And so I think Dalton Kincaid is a good tight end. I think he's a solid tight end for fantasy. But if you can just trade him to a tight end needy team, that's the issue. You can't just trade him to somebody that doesn't need him. Like, you're going to have to trade him to seriously a tight end needy team, and then just pitch, hey, he's connected to Josh Allen, and try to get what you can out of him before it gets to that, like, now he's in that realm of, tight ends where, you're just kind of throwing them around when you need a tight end. Like, hey, I'll send you a third right now because my guy just went out on injury. Can I get so and so?
Yeah.
So before that happens, before the season starts, maybe just kind of capitalize off of he's with Josh Allen. His name's Dalton Kincaid because that name still
I
carries
agree.
weight.
And you'll see some sort of hype train, like somebody's going to tweet like Dalton Kincaid, one-handed catch, and training camp. Like, look at this, they're really anticipating. Right, strategically wait for that hype train to hit, and absolutely, he might get a value bump. But yeah, I would agree.
All right, I'm going to hit my last one here so that you can finish on the tradeaways for us. But my last one, staying in Buffalo, is James Cook. I think that this contract situation is not looking good at all in Buffalo. Originally, like a month ago, there's this Buffalo beat reporter that I follow, and I've talked with him a couple times, and he was saying like a month ago that the issues going on with like him not showing up to things has nothing to do with the contract. That has completely changed. I think he either listed or has sold his house in Buffalo. Now, a month ago, people were saying that's because he's trying to just buy another home. So, of course, you got to sell your home to go buy another one in Buffalo. But now it looks like that might not actually be the case. Like, this actually is getting pretty ugly in Buffalo. I'm not saying it's going to be the Le'Veon Bell route. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, James Cook he's not that guy. Like, he's solid, but he's not like that guy when it comes to like top-end running backs to be acting the way he is about this contract. I think he should get paid. It's not what I'm saying. But if he's not in this system, what other systems in the NFL is James Cook really going to pop off in? And so I think if you can just capitalize off of last year, and who knows, maybe he is solid after this year, and I don't think he's going to be terrible. I just think, do you really want to be dealing with this by the time the season comes, this contract? And we've seen this before with Melvin Gordon, with Le'Veon Bell. We've seen this happen before of how long will this actually, we don't know. Is this actually going to be games are sitting out and you were relying on James Cook? Maybe you just capitalize off of that and go ahead and get rid of it right now before any of that weirdness happens.
Yeah, and even if it's not games, how many times do we see, even if not a running back, a wide receiver, somebody hold out, they miss training camp, portions of training camp, and they come in week one, they're not in shape. They're not in game shape. They're getting, 10 carries a game. They're gassed. And then all of a sudden, a guy that you're banking on, hey, I need to get some wins early so I can contend. Now, James Cook's getting you 7 points a game, maybe, and he's gassed and not making it to the third, fourth quarter because they have Ray Davis or they have Ty Johnson. So, yeah, I agree 100%. Don't like the situation.
Me neither. All right, who's your last trade-away candidate?
Trade-away candidate is kind of an entire core. Any wide receiver or tight end on the Indianapolis Colts. Anybody.
Okay.
They can
all be thrown away.
They can all. This is we do not discriminate as far as who or where. But, dude, Tyler Warren, I get that he's a rookie. Dude, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman especially. If I had to put anyone at the top, it'd be Michael Pittman. Adonai Mitchell, if you can get anything for him, anybody.
Yeah.
There is no clear, cuts or path to them having good targets or having a good quarterback, good play caller. If it is Anthony Richardson, Lord knows he can't hit the broadside of a barn. He's going to be running the ball anyways.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, we talked about that a little bit. If you can get anything of value, I'm not saying trade Josh Downs for scraps because I think that the talent's there. And, man, if you can hold on to him, like if you're a rebuilder, hold on to him for a couple of years, I think you're going to be fine.
Sweet.
But if you can get something for any of these guys, something worth value, remotely close to the KTC, go for it.
Yep.
I absolutely would.
I agree. Especially Michael Pittman being at the top of that list. And I think actually, I don't even know right now. Like, I feel like the community is split on who actually has a higher value between Josh Downs and Michael Pittman right now. But who knows, man? I mean, maybe you can get a high something out of either one of those two guys. But, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like Josh Downs the most for sure. I mean, Pittman's got his injuries and again, we talked about the QB uncertainty. But dude, I was watching some of his stuff. I tried to watch film before this today so I could come in prepared. He just looks slow, dude. Like
sandbags are attached to his ankles sometimes.
Yes, dude. Like he looked like Fat Debo. Like he just was not moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can get something for Pity City, I definitely would pull the trigger and try to get out of that.
You can pitch the fact that he's got that contract because in Dynasty, what is something that we love in Dynasty? It's when they've gotten that second contract because more often than not, that's going to signal, okay, the team's going to utilize that person when they just invested all this money. And that can also be like what you're pitching. Like, hey, listen, I know you'd like to have him. He's got the contract. Give me
People
some.
love a story.
Mm.
People love a story. If you can tell them a story and sell them on it, absolutely. I
Yeah.
would definitely utilize that.
All right, so to round things out here, Josh, what is the way too early NFL prediction that you have for this? And it could be anything. It could be a quarterback
Hmm.
stat. It could be the Super Bowl prediction. It could be literally anything. What is your way too early 2025 NFL prediction?
So everyone's gonna hate this. I don't care. My way too early prediction is that the Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East. Will win the
Okay.
division.
Okay.
Dak is back. He's healthy. We have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Revamped the O line in the draft. Otherwise, good offensive line coach. Now, this is going to sound crazy. I like our running back room more than last year, which kind of hard not to, right?
Mm.
But I think Javonte Williams has a lot to prove. I think that he's kind of like we talked about with injuries, kind of.
Oh, my headphones dying. Oh well. Javonte Williams, kind of coming into the running back room with two guys like Phil Maffa and Jaden Blue.
Mm.
I think that there's a world where this offense looks great. Now,
Okay.
other side of the ball too, we talked about it. Defense has to stay healthy, right? We've got Eberflus at DC. I like Eberflus as a non-head coach, so not mad about that. But if we stay healthy on the defensive side of the ball and we've got offense rolling, I can realistically see us winning the NFC East. So that's my bold prediction.
Bold
Sorry.
prediction.
Sorry to everybody.
Hey, well, listen, I think it's possible. I mean, if it goes back to what you said about staying healthy, right? Like they're going to
Mhm.
have to stay healthy, but if they can stay healthy, when Dak's healthy, whether you like to admit it or not, he's a top 10 guy. It
He's
is
a
what it
dog.
is. When he's healthy, we've seen it time and time again. He is a top 10 quarterback in the league statistically. Statistically, he's just a
Mhm.
top 10 guy. I would say my way too early, hot take, if you will, is that Aaron Rodgers is actually going to be really good for the Steelers. And listen, I know that sounds crazy. I know
Yeah.
that sounds crazy. But let me give you a little stat here. I wrote this down for this podcast specifically. Let me give you the stat, all right? So, Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to be better. Listen to this comparison, okay? Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers last year, he had 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a 48 QBR, okay? This other quarterback had 3,727 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 49.8 QBR. Now, this other quarterback, when I tell you who it is, everybody's going to know is highly like, there's no way Aaron Rodgers in 2024, remember everything that was going on, had a better year than
Mhm.
this quarterback. The quarterback named is CJ Stroud. Aaron Rodgers had a
Wow.
better season than CJ Stroud last year. We don't think about it. We don't, we're not thinking in the realm of the Jets and everything that happened that he actually statistically had not just better, like actually way better season than CJ Stroud last year. So I think that Aaron Rodgers is the best thing for the Steelers. This is the last dance with him. I believe like this is it. And yeah, I do believe he was really wanting to go to the Vikings. But listen, this is the best case scenario for the Steelers. And my hot take is that he wins them a playoff game for the first time in Pittsburgh in like I don't even know how long. But I think
Oh,
he's going to win him a playoff game. That's what I
that's
think.
big time. That's
Yeah.
big time. I don't disagree. I look back on it and I forgot. Maybe it's whatever ash ayahuasca bias or
Mm,
whatever. I didn't realize that Aaron Rodgers had as good of a year last year that he did.
yeah.
I think you look at it and you're like, oh, he's old, he's decrepit, the Jet sucks. He wasn't bad
Mm-mm.
from a fantasy standpoint. So
Yeah.
I love that take.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best thing for the Steelers this year. I mean, it was either Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and I would much rather have, even if it's literally just copy paste what he did last year on the Steelers, would be miles better than what they would have had otherwise. So yeah, that's my take, man. But man, this
Love it.
this has been a good one, dude. This has been insane. We've gone on so long, your headphones died. How about that?
I know.
How about
That's
that?
crazy.
I honestly think this is going to have to be like a two-parter. Like I'm going to literally
yeah.
have to do like two separate episodes for the first one. That's incredible, man. I could not thank you enough, Josh, for being on, dude. You're my first guest. Hopefully, man, we get to do this more often.
Let's do it.
But dudes, what's some of your final remarks? What's going on with Josh Benson in the future? How do you want to leave us here, man? Tell us what's up with Josh Benson going on.
Man, I appreciate any supports, just on my socials. You can find me on TikTok or Instagram. In the future, be keeping an eye out on YouTube. I'm hoping to come out with a show, non-dynasty, unfortunately, for all you, fantasy football freaks. I'm not going to be talking about, fantasy too much, but nonetheless, I'm hoping to enter the YouTube realm as well. But dude, right now, just holding it down and trying to win another championship. So that's all we can do. That's
Hey,
all we can do right now.
that's all we can do. That's all we can do. Well, heck yeah, man. Josh Benson on Instagram, on TikTok, on the YouTubes soon, so be looking out for that. But, man, I couldn't appreciate you any more for coming on, and this was incredible, man. Till next time, man. I'll see you.
Heck yeah, brother. See ya.
See ya. If you made it to the end, I do just want to say a big thank you and shout out to you. This interview was so fun to do, and I've got so many more lined up. There's so many more content creators, businesses, podcasters coming on that I'll be able to interview. You'll be able to learn some insights like you did from Josh Benson today. Cannot thank Josh enough for coming on. This was so fun, and I'll be having him on my main show, The Daily Dynasty Show. Make sure you check that out as well. You don't want to miss that. But so that you don't miss any more, make sure you subscribe. And again, I cannot thank you guys enough. There's so much more to come. This was episode number 1. If you enjoyed it, I'm glad. See ya.